Hi everyone and welcome. FPL Matt Day here. Game week 9 deadline stream with just over an hour and a half until tonight's deadline. I can't wait for it. Got the Spurs top ready for the North London derby, which I'm going to be heading out to watch today down at one of the local pubs here in Melbourne. So I'm going to try and keep the stream to about an hour or so. So if you are new here, remember to just give the video a like. Give us a subscribe and get all of your comments in. Let us know your questions. If you're watching as part of the audience, interact with each other and let's talk all things FPL for game week 9. Really big game week ahead of us. We've got the North London derby first on, which is the early kickoff in the UK between Arsenal and Tottenham. Arsenal are on unbelievable form at the moment. 6 wins from their 7 games. You've got Spurs yet to lose a game. Haven't quite got going in terms of their performances, but they're yet to lose. Conte has made Tottenham a very difficult team to beat. Also got the Manchester derby as well, which is going to be huge at the Etihad. Potentially a rejuvenated Man United side here under Ten Hag. So it's going to be absolutely big weekend of Premier League. We've got a full schedule back, which is absolutely massive. Can't wait for it. It's been about 3 weeks now since we had a full schedule, and obviously 2 weeks since we had the previous game week. Just before I get into the fixtures and sort of share the screen, I'll quickly just run through what we are going to be going tonight on the stream. So we'll be going through some fixtures and just a player from each fixture. Won't go into too much detail on each fixture itself. I'll just pick one player that I think is good from that fixture. And maybe a quick score prediction. I'll be picking some differentials that I think are good for this game week. Talk a bit about my transfers, and then we'll go through some Q&A that comes in the comments. So get your questions in now if you are watching. Let's go. Let's share the screen and let's get into game week 9. So buzzing just to have it back. This break. It felt like it went on for ages. I know we had the international football, which was obviously great in its own right, but it's just not quite the same as when we have a full fixture list of FPL. And here it is for game week 9. Have a look at that. First game on, Arsenal Spurs. As excited as I am for it, and I think if you're a neutral fan, this is a game that you'd just be absolutely buzzing to watch. It is a nerve-wracking game from a Spurs perspective. We do struggle at this stadium. Arsenal will be really up for it. Obviously, big crowd, sellout crowd. It's going to be a huge game. My prediction, look, Spurs do struggle there. We've not won a huge amount of games at the Emirates Stadium. I'd love to say that Spurs are going to win this game. I'd love to, but I just can't see it. I think Arsenal are too slick. The football they're playing is too good. On the flip side, Conte is playing some great football. It's kept made Spurs are quite solid. Maybe not quite playing the great football that Arsenal are playing, but he's still made us solid enough. So look, I'll go with a draw. I'll go with a score draw, maybe a 1-1. Tends to be quite a common scoreline between the two down the year. So I'll go with 1-1. But Arsenal are on form. It's going to be a really, really tough game for Spurs, and it's always a nerve-wracking one for both sets of fans. In terms of an FPL player to look out for, I think I'm just going to go with Harry Kane. 13 goals in North London derbies. It's an absolutely ridiculous record. I know there's been quite a few pens in there as well, but you take the pens away, there's still 7 goals from open play against Arsenal at both the Spurs home ground and at the Emirates as well. So, it's a great record. So I think Harry Kane is the man to pick from this game. But yeah, really looking forward to it. It is going to be a brilliant fixture. Let's go on to the next one. We've got Bournemouth versus Brentford. This is a huge game because obviously one of the topics this week is, do we sign Big Dom Solanke? A lot of people are putting him in as kind of their enabler for this game week. 5.7 million. Look, I actually think it's not a bad purchase for me. It's something I've done. It's not necessarily because I think he's going to score a huge amount of goals. It's mainly for the fact that I really wanted to get to a certain midfielder who I will speak about later on in the pod. So I actually took a -4 for him. So I went Jesus out to get Solanke in. Nothing against Jesus, nothing against the fact that he's playing against the team I support. It's more so for the fact he's on 4 bookings. He's a booking away from a suspension. I really just needed that extra money for this midfielder, who I will speak about soon. Slanky's in there. Look, I think it's a difficult game against Brentford, but he does play against Leicester next week. And I think he will start knocking on the door for some goals. And he obviously also takes pens. So big game here. Look, I'm going to pick Tony as the man in this one. He's obviously been an absolute fire this season for Brentford. I think he'll come out with maybe a goal and a decent return. Score prediction, I think I'll go maybe with a 1-1. I also like Billing from Bournemouth, really cheap, good enabler, very, very low owned. So, yeah, interesting game down in Dorset. So let's go down to Crystal Palace, Chelsea. Another intriguing game. It's Graham Potter's first Premier League game in charge of Chelsea. I think this will be a very tight game. I'm going to go with Chelsea maybe to nick it at 1-0. Palace, obviously, really exciting side. Lots of really good players. But I'll back Chelsea and I'll back Raheem Sterling as my player to watch from this one. So I'm going to go with 1-0 to Chelsea. Going into the next one, Fulham Newcastle, another one where there's a lot of people with so much invested in this game. You know, Newcastle triple ups, Newcastle double ups in defence. The likes of Isaac, who's now out of this game and injured, was in a lot of people's teams. There's also people with Trippier, there's people with Pope. So huge fixture for a lot of FPL fans and players. From a Fulham perspective, there's Andres Pereira, there's Mitrovic. Just heard that Paulinho from Fulham, who's had a very good season, is out of this one. So not sure how that's going to really impact Mitrovic because he just seems to be scoring regardless. But if you're an Andres Pereira owner, it may make him a bit more attractive because it means the goals and the assists could be shared more towards him. But there's also that Willian threat for his position too that we have to be wary of, you know, and from the set pieces. So yeah, big game here at Craven Cottage. In terms of a player to pick, it is a tough one. But I go with Mitrovic, ex-Newcastle player. He'll want to score against them. And he has been on absolute fire this season. And then we'll go on to the next one. We've got Liverpool versus Brighton, which is a big game for Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool have had, a nice rest over the international break. Not all their players went and played away. You know, Trent got a nice rest for England. Obviously, that was very controversial, him not getting in that England team against Germany. Mo Salah got a hat-trick whilst playing for Egypt, which is obviously big for Salah owners. They'll feel a bit refreshed knowing that Salah's got some goals behind his belt. Brighton have got a new coach that's come in, but there's no Graham Potter. Not sure how that's going to impact Brighton, but I think with Liverpool getting their players back, it could be big for them. They could feel refreshed. You know, Yotta's going to come back into the fold. I think he's a really good pick for this week. But I'll back Salah. I will back Salah in this game. Great record against Brighton. I mentioned it on the wildcard video I did with the midfielders. I think he is a really good option. So I'm going to back Salah as the man in this one. And I think Liverpool will win 2-0. Maybe not a Salah double, but at least a Salah goal with maybe some bonus and an assist in there. Let's go on to Southampton versus Everton. This is another one of those games where there's not huge amounts invested into either side. I don't know too many people with Southampton assets. Other than myself, I've actually got James Ward-Prowse. But other than that, I don't know too many Che Adams owners. I don't know sort of anyone that owns too many of their other players. Same as Everton. I know there's a few Anthony Gordon owners still kicking about, a couple of Malpay. Maybe Pickford, who I think is a really good option if you are on the wild card, with his price. So I'll back, I will back a low scoring affair. I think maybe a 1-1. And look, I'm going to back my man, James Ward-Prowse, to finally get a score because it's been a while since he has scored some points for us FPL managers. Next up, we've got West Ham Wolves, two teams that obviously haven't been performing too well this season. Wolves can't buy a win at the moment. West Ham have obviously only had the win. This has got potential to be quite a drab fixture, I think. Maybe a 1-0 either way or even a 0-0. I can't see too many goals. Wolves are quite tight at the back. West Ham aren't really playing the most free-flowing stuff at the moment. So I'm going to back a 1-0 win. Either side, it's hard to pick. Look, I'll back Wolves to get their win that they're overdue. And it's hard to pick a player, isn't it? No, I'll just go with someone like Kilman. Maybe some bonus, clean sheet, low owned. I think it could be another difficult one for West Ham, who just can't quite find their feet this season. So let's go on to the Manchester City Manchester United game. Another big derby this weekend, the Manchester derby. I saw United's record in this fixture away from home, and it's pretty miserable. I think it's been about 8 games now since United have won at this stadium. There is Ten Hag now, so he might be able to change that. Maybe set United up in a way that they don't get beat. So yeah, difficult one. But I'm still going to back Haaland. Give him chances at the moment. He scores any sort of chance in and around the box that City create, which is a lot when they play at home. Haaland is putting it in. So Haaland is going to be my pick from that game. And I'm going to back Manchester City to win this one. I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet. I actually think United will go for it. They'll look to score. And I think it'll be 2-1 to Manchester City, maybe with Haaland getting a goal, at least a goal, maybe 2. And I do think Man City will win this fixture. Then we've got Leeds versus Aston Villa. Another one where there's a little bit invested still from managers. There's people looking at bringing in Bamford. There's Jack Harrison owners. There's Sinisterra, who's obviously been brilliant since he joined Leeds. A lot of people have been considering him as a differential for this fixture. And then from a Villa point of view, Watkins is obviously someone that's, a lot of people got their eyes on as a swap for Isaac. I've actually got Philip Coutinho in my team. I brought him in last week on the, what was effectively the blank game week where there was only 7 fixtures. And I brought Coutinho in knowing that Villa have got a nice set of games. I knew he wasn't going to get picked for Brazil. So I thought it could be a good time for him to get on the training park with Villa, get some fitness in his legs from a training point of view, and maybe start getting back to that early season form or early Aston Villa form that he did have. You know what? I'm going to back Coutinho. I know he's in my team. It's probably been a bit biased during this stream, but I think Coutinho will come back into form over the next couple of weeks before he's got Nottingham Forest at home in game week 10. So I'm going to back a 2-2 in this game. I think there'll be a lot of goals. Ollie Watkins, Philip Coutinho, Sinisterra, Harrison, all really good assets for this one, but I'll back Coutinho and a 2-2 draw. And then this moves on to the last game of the game week. Another derby as well, obviously a couple of Midlands team. Home game for Leicester, yet to win a game this season. This one's obviously in the Midlands. Leicester having a real miserable time at the moment. But so, Nottingham Forest, to be fair, for a newly promoted team, they have got some points behind their belts. They've won a game which Leicester haven't actually done. I will back Leicester to win this game. I think it will be possibly... I think they'll get their first win. Because although they're not winning games, they're knocking on the door in terms of still creating a lot of chances. They're giving away a lot of chances as well. But I just feel this is time for them to stop the rot. And I think they might win this one by 3 goals to 2. I think it's going to be close. I think Forest will score. So I'm going to go 3-2. And my man for this game is James Maddison. He's gone up to 8 million. His ownership's still just about below 10%, I believe. Actually, let's check that now whilst we're on the stream. Let's see what his ownership's got to. Because when I did the midfielder wildcard picks, he had actually rose in ownership prior to me doing the notes. So yeah, he's gone to 9.9% now. Wow. So his ownership has skyrocketed in the last 24 hours by at least 2%. Looks like he's going to be above 10% owned for this game week. He's my pick for this game. I don't think there's anyone else I can look past. He's only played, as you can see there, in 6 of the 7 fixtures Leicester have had this season, but he's returned. What have we got there? In 1, 2, 3, 4 of these games. So he's still getting returns despite Leicester not actually winning any matches. So I think Maddison is the pick for this game. On set pieces, obviously really effective player. I think this could be the week he gets a double-digit score. I can see him contributing for each goal that Leicester score. So really excited about this fixture. As a Maddison owner, that is who I took Dom Solanke. That's why I bring Dom Solanke in for Gabriel Jesus, so I could then buy James Maddison for this game for the -4. I took up Martinelli and Jesus, and that was purely because, like I said, it wasn't so much because my team Spurs are playing Arsenal. It was more so because Jesus was on 4 bookings. His scores had been a bit underwhelming of late. So I just thought to myself, look, let's get him out now, because if Jesus gets a yellow card, he's banned for next week. He also misses game week 11. So I just thought it's time to get Jesus out. Then in terms of midfielders, again, Martinelli, I just looked at it and I thought it was him or Ward-Prowse that was on the chopping block. And I wanted to keep Ward-Prowse for the Everton game. And then Martinelli missing in game week 11 against Man City. I just had too many Arsenal and Man City players combined. And, obviously, Arsenal have a little bit of a tougher run coming up now. And I thought this was the time to do it. So I've brought in Maddison and I've brought in Solanke. I've taken a -4. I've obviously not had the greatest start to the season. So for me, with the season I've had, a -4 isn't going to make too much of an impact to my team. And I've done it more so with the idea of, I think the next 4 or 5 games, I will benefit from it. Even if Maddison or Martinelli don't do so, Martinelli or Jesus do well in the North London derby tonight. It's more of a case, I think, over the next 4 or 5 game weeks, Maddison and Solanke will outperform Martinelli and Jesus, obviously because Arsenal miss a game as well. And Jesus is very close to getting a suspension. I'll quickly bring up some comments that have come through. We've got a Twitter comment here. A Discord. Actually, I think it's from Twitch. Twitch. Getting the emojis. So from Ruby_AK saying, Hey, thanks for joining. If you're new, give the channel a subscribe and a like. It's great to have you here. It's a name I don't think I've seen you comment before. So welcome along. Great to have you involved. I think it's the Twitch feeds FPL Amateurs of Oz, Quinton. So you've obviously found my YouTube through that. So great to have you here. I've just seen your other comment that you've brought Maddison in as well. So the same as me. I actually think it's a really good move, because you've got, as you can see here, you've got this Forest game at home, you've got Bournemouth away, you've got Palace at home, you've got Leeds at home, you've got Wolves away. There's some really good fixtures all the way up until the World Cup there for him. So really good transfer by yourself there. I've got a comment from This Is Wrestling Film, Martin Watchhorn, really good FPL account on Twitter as well, and loves his wrestling. Cracking insight, matey. Cheers from Martin. Thanks for joining the stream. Good luck for this game week as well. It's going to be another tense game week. Some really big games. Obviously, we've got the North London derby for me. You've got the Manchester derby between United and Man City at the Etihad. So some really big stuff for us. What we'll quickly do. I've just seen there is a question as well from yourself, Ruby, about goalkeepers. I'm going to do some Q&A at the end. So stay tuned. Stay in the stream. If you are watching now, get your questions in the comment. We'll do all the Q&A at the end and we'll go through them. Try and get as many questions as we can before I wrap this up. But just before I do, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen, and I will just talk through some differentials that I'm liking for this game week. Maddison was one of them, but as you can see, my differentials are based on players that are below 10% owned, and he's probably going to be over 10% owned by the time we get past the deadline in the next hour and 20 minutes. I'm still going to say he is a differential, James Maddison, for now. But the way he's going with the transfers coming in and in and in, I'm not sure if he is going to be a differential by the end of it. So really liking him this week. I'm really liking Jack Harrison as well for Leeds against Aston Villa. I think he's a really good pick, still quite low owned. So really liking that one. So liking Jack Harrison. Just had a couple more questions coming as well. Here we go. Stephen McDonald's coming. FBL eyes. Can't go Leicester, but I've gambled on Billing thanks to your tweet, Matt. He was another differential I was about to mention. 0.3% owned, so he's very, very low owned. He scored in his last 2 games. For those that follow the Championship last season will know he got double digits in terms of goals and assists. He was absolutely brilliant for Bournemouth. They've got a really good fixture run as well coming up. Leicester next week for them, which is a great fixture for Bournemouth. Brentford this week, who have only kept 1 clean sheet this season. So Billing is a really good differential. So I'm really liking that one. So there's a few differentials for this week. Billing, Harrison, James Maddison, whilst he stays a differential. And then in terms of captains, for me, I think Salah's the number one pick now this week. I've sort of been thinking about this for the last few days and kind of all day today about who really is the best captain. And I think Salah, with Liverpool getting their injuries back, playing against Brighton without Potter, I think this is a good one for him. So I'm going to put him as my number one pick, despite the fact that he's obviously not been in the greatest form for Liverpool. I'm going to go Haaland in a very close sort of second, but he's very close to first. He's obviously absolutely unbelievable. He's on great form. Man City have got a brilliant record in this derby at home, like I mentioned earlier. So he's my number two. Number three is going to be Harry Kane, 13 goals against Arsenal, most goals in North London derbies. Even if he gets you just the one goal, he's tending to get a lot of the bonus this week. This season. So Harry Kane, I think, is a really good captain option. And then my curveball is James Maddison. I know a lot of people are sort of thinking about having him as the captain anyway. I can see Martin Watchhorn, this is Wrestling Film, tempted to stick the armband on Maddison or even Trent. I actually really like the Maddison shout because it's a real big curveball. You're going to get a very big rank gain. Also, you kind of save him all the way to the end of the game week as well. On the Monday night in the UK, Tuesday morning here in Australia. It's a really good fixture for Maddison. So I like that. And as for Trent, I really like that as well. He's had that rest. England didn't pick him. Every time there's a problem with Trent with England and they don't play him, Southgate doesn't just pick him. He comes back and scores for Liverpool. He comes back and gets a really big score. It's almost like he just throws it in Southgate's face as if to say, you should be picking me. And I'm actually a bit gutted I don't have him in my team anymore. I took him out. I did bring Trippier in. That was in the blank game week, and it was at the sacrifice of Trent. And a bit of me is like, I wish I'd just done Trippier for Zinchenko because I think I could have afforded it at the time. Kept Trent, and then maybe not use my second transfer, which I did use for Coutinho. Because I actually think Trent could score big this week, clean sheet potentially with an assist, or maybe even one of those top corner specials that he does love. So that's the captains for me. Let's go through just a couple more comments that have come through. We are an hour and 15 minutes till deadline. Get your questions in if you haven't done. Let's go and answer this first question we had come in from Ruby. Do you think starting Ward over Pope is worth the risk? You know what? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say this because I'm assuming you may have brought Pope in on a wild card in the last game week. Let me know if that's the case. Even if it's not and you've had Pope all season. I just think if you've brought Pope in the last few weeks, you've brought him in as the 5 million to sort of 5.2, 5.3 million that he is now. You bring him in because you've paid more for a goalkeeper because you want to start him every week. He's in a better defence than Leicester. Leicester have been an absolute mess this season at the back. And I know they're playing Nottingham Forest at home, but Nottingham Forest have scored 2 goals against Fulham in the last game week. They still scored 2 goals against Bournemouth in the game week before. And they've still been scoring in games this season. And Leicester have just been conceding goals for fun. I think it's going to be a 3-2 game. I can see both teams scoring goals. Nottingham Forest have been involved in a couple of 3-2s this season as well. So for me, I love gambles though in FPL as well. And I always say, play your own game, play what you think is going to happen. But I've got Ward in my team as an example. And I've got David Raya from Brentford playing away at Bournemouth. And I also own Dominic Solanke. And I'm playing David Raya still. Because I just don't want to play Ward. I don't want to play a Leicester player right now. They're just getting absolutely torn apart. And even when they have looked like they're going to keep a clean sheet, like on the first day of the season when they played Brentford, they were 2-0 up until about the 60th, 70th minute mark. And they were cruising. And we thought, Leicester might be getting a clean sheet here. Danny Ward's looking like a bargain. And that game, when they lost that lead, that was when it kind of changed for Leicester, I think, from there. They just, lost any momentum that they were looking to build on, and they just conceded goal after goal after goal. So I would just leave it with Pope. And if Ward does keep a clean sheet, you've got to look at it as a lot of luck because he's just conceding goals left, right, and centre. So I wouldn't do that personally, but good luck with your choice. And that is correct. Yep, Leicester and Forest is a derby. I think it's a Midlands type of derby. So I don't think it's as fierce and sort of big as what you get obviously with the Spurs Arsenal derby and the Manchester derby and the Liverpool Everton. But it's still a derby. I think it's probably more like the maybe like a Spurs sort of Fulham rivalry. I'd say Spurs West Ham and Spurs Chelsea, but they're massive rivalries as well. So that is indeed a derby, and I can see that being a high scoring game. Comment from Steve McDonald, who's FPL Eyes on Twitter. Agrees on the captains. That's what he's done. If Liverpool had better fixtures, Tsimikas would have been tempting. I agree as well, because I think Robertson's obviously got the injury. Tsimikas looks really good every time he plays for Liverpool, and he's a really good price too. So, and the thing is, your team now, you're only keeping up until, was it game week 17? And once game week 17's done, we've got the World Cup. World Cup's in, you get a bunch of unlimited transfers. So, you've got to really be thinking about teams, just for kind of this next, third of the season, really. You don't really need to think any time beyond that. Players like Tsimikas, aren't always the worst option on a wild card, especially if Robertson does have a bit more of a longer term injury. But yeah, keep an eye on Jurgen Klopp's press conferences for more info on that one. And then a comment here from PSB. He is contemplating starting David Raya too. PSB, who is your second goalkeeper? Is it Danny Ward as well? Or do you have Pope? I'm going to assume you've got Danny Ward. You may have just saved the money and had a cheaper second goalkeeper. But let me know in the comments who your next keeper is, so we can work out whether or not that is the decision to make. I'm doing Raya over Ward. I'm assuming you've got the exact same problem there. Well, I wouldn't say it's a problem, but because we know what Danny Ward is like. But what I'll do, if there's any more questions, get them in. I'll probably look to wrap the stream up in the next sort of 5 or 10 minutes, unless we have more questions that come in. If you're on a wild card, watch my wildcard videos. I've got sort of some 10 or 15 minute clips on this channel. If you're new here, give us a subscribe. Please like the video. Much appreciated. It really, really helps. Go check out my Twitter thread as well on FPL Matt Day on Twitter. Plenty of differentials and chat on there as well. What I think I might do then, I can see there's a few watchers that are starting to jump into the stream. We're starting to get some questions. I'll quickly share my team. And then if you are wanting to ask some more questions, then just get them in. But I'll share my team in the meantime, so at least we can see what I've got for this game week. So let's share my screen. Still got it on James Maddison there, my player for the game week, who I'm really, really liking for this week. We'll go to the pick team. We won't check my rank because it's a disgrace. As you can see, those red arrows at the moment, not looking good. Okay, so PSB's come in and said he's got Everson as his number 2. It's one of those, PSB. You know what? Like, Everson might not even play. So you could put Everson in right as your number 1. Raya could get a really good score, and obviously you'll be sweating all the way until deadline thinking, oh my God, Raya's got this really good score against Bournemouth. I really hope Everson doesn't play. And then he might not play, and Raya comes straight in anyway. So it's kind of potentially like a bit risk-free. Obviously, unless like Everson does decide he wants to, he does play. But I still think Leicester will keep Danny Ward. I know he's been a bit of a joke this season and everyone's having a bit of a laugh about him. But in the Spurs Leicester game, okay, he was a disaster at times, but he still made a couple of really, really good saves. Yeah, I'd probably still play Raya. I think with Raya, even if Bournemouth score, he's still getting so many save points, David Raya. I've actually had a bit of a premonition where, because I'm a Solanke owner, I'm starting to think that Dominic Solanke is going to get a penalty for Bournemouth. He's going to miss it, and it's going to shake the FPL world, because all we've spoken about all week is Dominic Solanke. Is he a good buy? Is he a bad buy? David Raya gets his save points. I'm absolutely buzzing. And then Solanke bangs in the rebound, so then you're not losing too much in Solanke. So yeah, I've been kind of thinking about that all week. So yeah, I think Raya would probably be a better choice. Yeah, because I'm not even sure Everson's going to play, even though Danny Ward's obviously been a bit of a ghost in goal. And good to hear, mate. Thanks for getting your questions in. Good luck with your wild card as well. I'm sure you'll be fine, mate. You watch plenty of games, and even if your wild card doesn't do well, Man City are on pretty good form. So I'm sure you're not too disappointed. Let's quickly go through my team. So as you can see, David Raya is in goal for me. I've got Cancelo at home to Manchester United. Reece James, actually hoping he gets a bit of a score this week, Reece James. If you have a look at him so far this season, it's not really been too great, has it? 3 7s, a 1. The game he didn't play against Southampton, that was a real kick in the teeth. Hasn't hit those big double-digit scores yet. Maybe this is the sort of game. I did say 1-0 to Chelsea, and I thought Sterling might score. So maybe we might see one of those beautiful Reece James crosses to the back post, and Sterling taps it in, and Chelsea get the 1-0 win. Trippier away at Fulham, tough game. Not sure really what to expect. The predicted points for him there is 6.5. For James, it's only 1.5. I think that's a little bit rough. But there you go, 6.5 for Cancelo as well. Only 1.5 for Coutinho. Maddison, 3.8. Ward, Prowse, 1.5. And Salah's got pretty good points of 8. That's obviously because I've got the captain's armband on him. These are pretty rough, aren't they, some of these? Like if this actually does happen, my team is going to be in a bit of a mess. But Tony's got 10 points predicted, which is pretty high. That probably throws him in the curveball captain shout there. And then Solanke, who, a lot of people are saying don't get in, has got 6.5 points. So that's a bit promising. Same as Haaland. Haaland's got 8.5. Let me know in the comments. Do you think this is the right team, 3-4-3, or do you think I should throw Andreas in there for someone? There's also been some talk that Zinchenko might play in midfield for Arsenal. So, is this the right team? Do you think I've made the right options with the 3-4-3, benching Williams, benching Zinchenko, benching Andreas? I'm pretty comfortable benching David Raya, 2.5 points predicted points against Danny Ward at 1.8. But let me know if you think I've got the right team, or if there's anything you would change. I have got the captain's armband on Salah. That's going to be my final choice now. I'm not even going to change. Look, I've gone through the pain this season of Haaland banging in those hat tricks when I didn't own him, which was horrible. But I just get this good feeling about Salah in this one. So we'll see. A couple more comments that have come in before we wrap up the stream. Thanks everyone that comes in and puts the comments in. It's really appreciated. Love the interactions. Love the interactions in the YouTube as well amongst each other. It's really good to see. We are an hour and 5 minutes until deadline as well. So if you've got any last minute questions, get them in. We've got the likes of FPLIs, Stephen McDonald in the comments, PSB, who can help out. So I would say, there we go. We've got a couple of other comments actually coming in from the Gadsden brothers. So I'm actually about to meet them very shortly to watch the Arsenal Spurs game. So I'll bring up their comments in a second. I reckon go for Jordan Pickford, PSB. Steve McDonald says go for Leno, which might not be a bad shout either. But I reckon go for Pickford. Let's quickly check Pickford in the stats. Everton aren't really conceding as many goals this season. I think he's a really good option if you're on a wild card. I believe his price, let's go to Jordan Pickford, it's 4.5 million. Yeah, he's getting a lot of saves as well this season. Look at that, 5 saves there, 4 saves there, 4 saves there, 4 and 8. So yeah, you're getting a lot of save points from Jordan Pickford. So I think he is the way to go, PSB, if that's what you're going to do. There you go. So you're considering him and Pickford anyway. Question from Matt Gasden. KDB out, Salah in. It's a tough one because De Bruyne's still got Man United at home. He got a good score in this fixture before. And he's got Southampton at home next week. So it's kind of like, are you going to bring Salah in and captain him? I think if you're already captaining Haaland, you're then going to bring De Bruyne in for Salah next week. If you're not, if you're not going to bring Salah in for De Bruyne next week, if your plan is your own in De Bruyne because you want him for the Southampton home game next week, then I'd just say keep him. Yeah, I think that's the one scenario where, like if you own Son, if you own De Bruyne, it's probably not worth doing the swap for Salah. But again, if you think Salah's going to hit the goals and you're going to captain him, then maybe it could be worth doing. And yeah, thanks. I think that's right. I think 3-4-3 is the correct way to go. I think the bench is about right. Pereira is probably the only one I might potentially may play, but yeah, I think the rest of the team is a lot better. And then James Gadsden with the comment: correct team, Guru. Come on, you Spurs. Look, going to be it's going to be a tough game. I think I mentioned earlier. We don't win too many games at the Emirates. Tough stadium. Obviously, the early kickoff as well. So look, I'm going to back I'll back the 1-1 draw. Harry Kane to score. And yeah, I'm not going to predict who I think is going to score for Arsenal. They've got a lot of options, so I can't really say who will score. But I think Harry Kane for Spurs and a 1-1 draw. And then the last comment from Steve McDonald: T-Rex arms. That's all he's saying. That's in relation to Jordan Pickford. A lot of people call him T-Rex arms because he's got little arms. But I do still think he's a good FPL option. Makes so many saves, and the Everton team isn't conceding too many goals this year. But let's wrap it up there. I think we've been going for about just under 40 minutes. Deadline is coming in an hour from now, so make sure you get your teams in, get your captains in. If you're watching this on pre-record, get all your comments in. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. Turn the notifications on as well if you haven't. If you are going to turn the notifications on and it's not allowing you to do it, and you subscribe to the channel, then unsubscribe to the channel and resubscribe, and then you can then click the notifications again. So give that a go if you haven't done. But I'll leave it at that. I'll see you in the next one. Actually just had a last minute question come in from Robbie. So we'll quickly bring that on. He has asked, Tony versus Wilson. Tony for me. I think the problem with Wilson is, although he's going to be back fit, starting for Newcastle, takes pens, which obviously Tony does as well for Brentford. Problem with Wilson, you're always going to have that injury cloud. We've seen it this season where a lot of people had Wilson from the start, scored goals, looked good, but then again, injured. And I wouldn't risk it. I think Tony's the one between the two. Tony's still got good fixtures. He's got Bournemouth this week as well. Stays on pens. He's getting assists as well as goals this season. So I would keep Ivan Tony as opposed to Wilson. That's who I would bring in. I'm assuming you're transferring out Isaac as well. Let me know in the comments if that is who you're transferring out. Sorry. That's a very good point, Mo. The deadline is in 30 minutes. And I'll tell you what I've done is Spurs versus Arsenal. So I'm in Melbourne in Australia. Spurs versus Arsenal is 9:30 p.m. kickoff. I've actually just assumed that the deadline is an hour before kickoff like it used to be. But obviously the deadline is now an hour and a half since last season. And they actually did that so they could stop all the leaked team news and all the early team news and all that sort of stuff. So thanks for pointing that out, Mo. The deadline is in 30 minutes. So get your teams ready, get your captains locked in. And good luck, everyone, for game week 9. That should be that for the pod. We'll give it another 20 seconds or so just to see if any other questions quickly come in. And if they don't, we will wrap the pod up there. Thanks again, everyone, for getting the comments in. Give the video a like, give the channel a subscribe. And that should be that. Looks like that is it for questions. So we'll leave it there. And thanks, everyone, that tuned in tonight. And I'll see you in the next video.